How's it going, everyone? It is Andre Williams, and over here we talk stocks and we focus on one thing. Always protect your profits. And today we're going to be talking about Mullen Automotive, which was down just over 13% on the day. 13.38% to be exact. Of course, where it was showing support, where we had some price action, we got to talk about it because it's looking very interesting. And if you remember what I said in my previous video, it looks like things are going to start coming together. I won't waste any more time. Let's jump into the agenda. If you're new to this channel, I just want to let you know we have timestamps down below inside the description. But if you're a shareholder, you're thinking about taking a position, I highly suggest you watch this full entire video. So the first thing we're going to go over is the technical analysis. We're going to be taking a look at the overall price action. We want to know support. We want to know resistance. We want to know what it looks like in the bearish case scenario and as well as in the bullish case scenario. And then we're going to be going on Fintel, taking a look at the recent short interest information. The reason why this is important because it does have an impact on the way the stock performs. And then we're going to be taking a look at the order flow distribution. We want to know the buying and the selling behavior on the retail side and as well as on the institutional side. And then when all of that is done, we'll be going into the final thoughts and as well as some more details. So let's get to it. So we're going to do a technical analysis for Mullen. Let's see how it performed on the day. So it ended up closing at $1.23, being down 13.38%. On the low, it tested $1.20, and then on the high, testing $1.33. So when we take a look at the volume stats on the day, you can see we traded at 81.593 million shares, and the average volume over 10 trading days is at 87.48 million shares. So we had below average volume on the day, and it's part of the reasons why we've seen a pullback in the stock. When we take a look at our chart, which is a daily chart, you can see from the RSI down below, it's at 48.84. And then when we take a look at our moving averages, we are below the 200-day. We're also below the 50-day. And you can see we closed right above the 21-day EMA. It is at $1.20. And of course, Mullen closed at $1.23. So of course, when we take a look at how it performed yesterday and taking a look at how it did today, it is on a downtrend. But you can see as far as for the low of the day, it tested $1.20. Remember what I said in my previous video, if we end up getting down to $1.17 and if we break through that level, we could fill in that gap to the downside right around $1.03. So as far as this 21-day EMA, it's going to continue to be a very important level to watch if you're planning to trade this or if you're thinking about taking a position. As far as for the high of the day, it ended up seeing $1.33. And like I said previously, it's looking bearish because again, we did have a lower low and we also see a lower high as well. And it seems to be a good amount of selling pressure that is happening. So if you want Mullen to start looking bullish again, it needs to get above the high of the day at 133 and see if it can make a move because it does have a gap that it needs to fill to the upside, wanting it to get around at least $1.40. So that is something you want to keep an eye on as well, especially if you're bullish in the play and you're looking to play off of the long. But for the most part, it is looking bearish. Let's see what it does going into tomorrow. Let's move on to the short interest information. So we're going to take a look at the short interest information from Mullen. So the off-exchange short volume ratio is at 57.74%. And then for the off-exchange short volume, it is just over 81.788 million shares. Scrolling down on the page, the short shares availability is at 2.7 million, updated just now. And then for the short borrow-free rate, it is at 6.40%. When we take a look at the history of the short volume, you can see for the close of the 31st, it was at 52.77. And then for the close of the first being at 57.74. So it has gone up a bit. And then taking a look at the short interest percentage of the float being at 11.62%. Unfortunately, Mullen doesn't have short squeeze potential. Now let's move on to the order flow distribution. Now let's take a look at the order flow distribution from Mullen. So for the inflows at 20.69 million, and then on the outflows at 21.80 million. So we had an outflow day. Taking a look at the breakdown, on the large it was 0.20 million, on the medium it was 14.61 million, and then on the small it is at 5.88 million. Taking a look at the outflow side, you can see on the large it was 0, on the medium it was 16.27 million, and then on the small it was 5.53 million. Taking a look at the large scale orders in the last 5 5 days, you could see for today, June the 2nd, we had an inflow of 0.2 million. Analyzing the numbers even further for the small scale orders that tend to represent the retail side, you could see that we had more buying than we had selling. And then when we take a look at what happened on the medium, we had more selling than we had buying. And then for the large, which represents whales, institutions, and funds, we had more buying than we had selling. And then when we take a look at the turnover ratio, it is at 25.23%. So this is up there for a stock like Mullen, but we have to understand it's also volatile, and there's a good amount of profit taking that is going on as well. So let's go on to the final thoughts, and we'll go over some more details. So for my final thoughts for Mullen when it comes to the price action, so as far as for the low of the day, it was right at the 21-day EMA, which is $1.20. And this is very interesting, and here's the reason why. Like I spoke about in the previous video, we know it had a strong gap up when it had its run. So we know if it breaks below $1.17, it has a gap that needs to be filled to the downside around $1.03. But as far as for the upside is concerned, this play ended up seeing a high at $1.33. But to fill in the gap to the upside, it's at $1.40. So what does this mean? As far as for the upside is concerned, you want to fill in that gap around 140 and see if it can go back to revisiting the 160 level. And then as far as for the downside, if you're going to be playing that, you want to see it break through 117 and look for that move for it to go to $1.03. So if you're going to be trading this play, you want to keep an eye on these levels to the upside and as well as for the downside. You have to make sure that you're being neutral. Also pay attention to the market conditions. Yes, for the short term, the stock has been selling off, but it could turn around very quickly, especially if there's a catalyst that comes out. Also, when we went on Fintel, taking a look at the short interest information, unfortunately, it doesn't have short squeeze potential, but the short interest percentage of the float is creeping up, but we will continue to keep an eye on it. But overall, in general, for Mullen, the sell-off that we are witnessing is not surprising, and right now it has the chart looking somewhat bearish, but it could turn around very quickly, and I want to make sure that is something that you understand. But going into tomorrow, if it's bullish, you want to see it continue to stay above the 21-day EMA, which is at 120, because if it can continue to hold above 120, maybe finding a higher low, then it can go back to filling in that gap to 140. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I can't wait to see how the stock performs going into tomorrow. We'll talk soon.